What's up, everybody? It's Amy here from Amy's Art Alchemy and your host of the A3 International Artist Trading Card Swap Group. So when I first started this channel, I knew I wanted to share tips, tricks, tutorials, and just a random things of art related. I know I wanted to feature artists. I know I wanted to try new things, show some crafty videos, some thrift store hauls, just a wide variety of things. But I also knew I wanted to share some basic things. And when I mean basic things, we are talking beginner things. For instance, I have always wanted a sewing machine. I never took home ec classes growing up in school. It just wasn't offered at our little school, or not to my class, I guess, at that point in time. I don't really know what happened because it came later. But I never really took any home ec classes, never had been taught how to sew, but I wanted one. And I mainly wanted it for paper crafts, but I wanted to be able to sew up clothing that has ripped or do just basic things around the house for my family. So my husband, a couple years ago, bought me a sewing machine. It was one that I really wanted, and he surprised me with it and bought it for me. And when he bought it for me, we signed me up to take a couple of beginners classes. Was so excited about it. Finally got my sewing machine, was gonna learn some basics. And the lady that I had signed up with decided to move towns. So she ended up moving like 6 hours away. So that went out the window. And from then on out, I had to learn from YouTube. Now, YouTube is a great source. It's great, along with Pinterest and Instagram videos. Obviously, that's why I'm putting this out here. So I wanted to share with you guys a couple things that I have learned in case somebody else needs to learn. One of those being how to sew on a button. And I know that probably sounds very basic, very beginner, but your girl didn't know how to sew on a button properly. And I thought, actually, I never really thought I knew exactly what I was doing, but I thought it can't really be that hard. Just go through the holes and knot it a couple times. Well, turns out I was doing it wrong. And it wasn't until probably 2 years ago when I thought, okay, maybe a button kept coming off my son's shorts, first of all. And I thought, maybe I need to actually research how to do this. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there is a correct way to do it. Also, I wanted to tell you guys, shank buttons. Why? Like, why don't they just have the holes on top? Well, there is a reason. So I also learned how to sew on shank buttons. Even though most of our clothes around here do not have shank buttons, I own several of them. Now, before I learned how to sew them, if I wanted to use them, I won't even tell you what I did because it was definitely wrong. But today I want to share with you guys just basic beginners how to sew on buttons. 2-hole, 4-hole, and shank buttons. So if you are already a pro at doing that, or if you were a beginner like I was and just looking for a helpful video to learn how, then just keep on watching. All right, guys, keep in mind this is a basic beginner's tutorial. I learned from YouTube, and I feel like everybody has to start somewhere. So I figured I would also share a basic beginner's tutorial for those people that are just trying to learn the basics. So if you are already a pro at sewing on buttons, then this video is obviously not for you. If you are a beginner, then I really hope you find it helpful. So basically there are 3 types of buttons. You have your sew through buttons, and they have the hole in the button. Those come in 2-hole and 4-hole, and these are usually used in lighter type fabrics such as shirts, long sleeve shirts, and things of that nature. Then you have your shank buttons. Now shank buttons are different. They have a hole that sticks out from the back of the button. These are used for heavier garments such as coats and cardigans and things like that. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to sew on all 3 types of buttons, so you will no longer have those buttons falling off your kid's shorts like I did every time I tried to sew one on. So I hope that you guys find this tutorial helpful. Okay, so we're going to first start with the basic 2-hole button. These buttons are the ones that you are more than likely going to find on your kids' clothing and light shirts. So you're going to need to double thread your needle, and here I'm just using a very small scrap piece of fabric to demonstrate. So you're going to double thread it and tie a knot at the end of the thread. Stick it through your fabric, pull all the way up to the knot, and I like to go ahead and clip that little bit off. You can save that for the end, but I like to just get that out of the way first. Then you're going to thread on the button. So just stick it right through one hole and then directly back through the other hole. Then through the piece of fabric. Then you're just going to do it again. So you're going to go back through that first hole and then down back through the second hole. So you're going to want to do this about 3 or 4 times. So in through one, out through the other. And then after the 3rd time, you're going to stick it through, but not all the way through the hole. So it's going to come out the side of the button. You're going to want to wrap it all the way around your button 3 times, pulling it kind of taut, and then stick it back under the button. So you're not going through the holes in this step. So pull it all the way through, making sure that wrap is nice and tight. And then you're going to want to tie off the knot. So just stick it through the fabric and then just do a knot. And you're going to want to do that twice. Now all that's left is to snip off that excess thread, and you are done. Your button is now nice and secure to your fabric. Next is the 4-hole button. Now basically this is almost identical. So double thread your needle, stick it through the button, through one hole, and you're going to want to crisscross. So go to the diagonal hole, in through the hole, out through the other one, up at the top or bottom, however you want. It's just got to crisscross, back down through the other one. And just like you did on the 2-hole, you're going to want to do this about 3 or 4 times. So that is the only thing different, is just crisscrossing that thread. So in one, out the other, and then once you get to that 3 or 4 times going through, you're going to do just like you did before. So you're going to stick it through to where it goes under the button, but not through the hole. And you're going to do like we did before. You're going to wrap it around about 3 times, pulling it nice and tight. Stick it under the button, back through the fabric. And then again, you're just going to knot it off. And you're going to want to do that twice. So very much like a 2-hole button. And then cut off your excess threads, and you're done. That's the 4-hole button, nice and secure to the fabric. And lastly, we have the shank button. So you're going to start this the same, double thread your needle, stick it through the fabric. This time you're going to go through that hole that's in the bottom, and it's going to feel a lot different because it feels kind of wobbly, and that is how it's supposed to be. So you're going to go through that hole and then down through the fabric, and now you're just going to keep threading it through that hole. So in one, sliding it through that hole and then back down through the fabric. Shank buttons are used for heavier garments and also used for a lot of decorations as well. So craft projects. And then you're going to do the exact same thing as we did before. After you do 3 or 4 times, you're going to go up the side, wrap it around 3 times to secure it, stick it back through the fabric, pulling those threads, and then knot it off twice, just like we did on the other ones. So it's not that difficult. I was always terrified of shank buttons and kind of made up my own way until one day I thought, okay, I just got to figure this out. It can't be that hard. So they're actually very easy to do, but you just got to learn somewhere. So I hope that this tutorial has helped you. If you are a beginner and need to know, I feel like everybody has got to learn somewhere or another. I learned from YouTube, and I was hoping this will be helpful for somebody. So here you have it, all 3 buttons, a 2-hole, 4-hole, and a shank button. I hope that you guys like this tutorial and found it helpful. So subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on any more tips, tricks, and tutorials.